Thank you, Paul, for having me. I'm Sheila Rondeau. I am the founder, CEO slash CMO of MogXP. MogXP is an experiential marketing company that also takes those key learnings from working with Fortune 500 companies, and I work with small to medium-sized businesses as a fractional CMO. And why does that matter to most small businesses? Is because most small to medium-sized businesses are the ones who really need the marketing strategy. They are the ones who don't have brand recognition, who have not had those big successes yet, and need someone to look at the strategy, build it out, build the funnels, and bring them customers where they either bring them into knowledge set, consideration set, or purchase set.
Well, you know, you've got a name that's very unusual. It's like marketing on greatness experience. So, okay, you put a stake in the ground when you chose that name. Share with us what your thoughts are. Where does the industry fall short of it when you put that stake in the ground trying to move it forward?
Okay, so I have to say MOG stands for Marketing Operations Group. The reason we do that is that everything in marketing needs to focus on the numbers. If you aren't looking at your numbers in marketing, it doesn't make sense. The XP stands for experience. When you are engaging consumers, we need to make sure that we are speaking with consumers, not at them. And we are creating experiences so that we build relationships. Because marketing, whether you want to believe it or not, even if you're doing it digitally, it has to be about an experience.
It does. And you and I have recently talked about some of the marketing efforts that are out there that are, I'm going to say generic. I receive them all day long from LinkedIn and other people. I saw your profile. Well, I don't care if you saw my profile or not. What what are you asking for or sharing with me, or how are you going to help me, or how can I help you is probably more of the
Mhm.
thought. But let me put that back to you because you and I recently have had a conversation about whenever the marketing is placed in front of someone, if it's not personal to them in the way they see it, they're going to ignore it. Why don't you expound upon that?
So, marketing is again about creating experiences. So, even if it's digital, you mentioned LinkedIn. If you are going to do messaging, even if it's AI messaging, you need to make sure that that message is clear and concise. Concise being the most important. Because if people feel like they're being sold to, blockers immediately come up. You get this wall. People want to feel like you at least acknowledge them as a person and understand who and what they are, what they do before you sell to them. So build a relationship.
Well, I do understand that, and I've been marketing for quite a while, and it's been okay. The results haven't been in the past quite the level that I wanted them to. That's when I got together with you. And now we're moving into a completely different direction of trying to do that. And I'd say I'm like many others. Most CEOs don't know what they actually know or what they actually want from marketing. They know they want more of something, leads, recognition, revenue, conversions. When they come confused to you about that, what's the conversation that happens before anything can be built?
So first of all, it's setting the stage to understand that marketing isn't a miracle. You're not going to like have a wand and all of the issues go away. What I what I will say is when marketing happens and it happens well, you speak with an authentic voice and you build blocks. It's not something that immediately happens. I think of it as a mixing board, and you have all of these different levers that you have to work through. And it's finding the right levers and the right volumes or the right mix to find what works for you. And if you do what everybody else does, you will get what everybody else gets. So when you hear, oh, well, we'll just do what a competitor's doing, that's great. But if you're doing the same thing, then you're basically going after the same people. And well, you think, oh, I have a better product, I'm going to take them away. No, because it just adds confusion. You need to be who you are, who your brand represents, and what it does. Some of the largest corporations in the world have failed at that horribly lately. If you think about the press and some of the big faux pas that have happened, it's because brands have gotten away from who they are and they're trying to be what they think everyone wants them to be. That's not right.
And, more recently, and I will not mention names here, but we've seen companies that forgot who their customer was and they marketed something that was not favorable to a large base of their customer base. And they lost tremendous volume, market share, just because they weren't paying attention to what the customer wants. They wanted to share their beliefs, thoughts, ideas. Talk to me about, okay, I have a product. I know what I can do. I think I can do it very well. Why does that not work with a potential client out there?
Because it's not about you, it's about them. It's about putting it in the words that resonate with them. Stop speaking at them, speak with them. Create conversations. You were talking about that big faux pas that happened. They could have cleared that up in minutes by reminding people who they are, where they came from, what their beliefs are, and that they represent so many brands in so many different areas that, well, they have misstepped. They deserve a little grace because they've done so much for our communities across the country and truly across the world.
Yeah, well, I know they're still trying to recover in the particular thing that we're talking about, but there were several of them that did this.
Yeah.
And you and I have talked about, okay, who is my customer? Now, going past who is my customer, what do they want that I can do?
Mhm.
How do you and your company delve into that to help a company identify, understand probably what we know, but not necessarily how we think they want to know about it?
So instead of what we offer, it is what do we solve for? It is again positioning it back to the client or the potential client, what those personas are, what they're dealing with, and then how do we solve the problem that keeps them awake at night?
Okay, and how do you go about that? Let's go into a little more depth. And let's use a company, not necessarily mine, unless you want to use mine, but
Sure.
a company that you dive into, and then you go, what are the steps that happens?
So perfectly for you, exactly what we did. We sat down and we listened way more than we spoke. We talked to you about what the issues that you're having or that your customer would be having and what do you solve for? What are the things that keep them awake at night? And then we look at who are those people? What type of businesses do they have? What type of interests do they have? And how do they like to communicate? And once we figure out how they like to communicate, then we can build out channels. Then we start looking at the messaging. The messaging, again, has to be what do we solve for them? So it's a strategy meeting, then it is about building out assets, then it is building out the funnels, but it is testing. So there's so much testing that takes place of do they prefer this message over this message? And do they prefer this channel over that channel? And figuring out which ones of those personas are the low-hanging fruit. And then you have the mid-range, those that aren't quite ready to jump in yet, that problem hasn't been big enough for them yet to take action. And then those who will be ready for it when they're ready for it, and you put them on a long-term type of engagement or warming up process, if you will.
All right. Well, now keeping in that mindset, uh, there's a real difference between getting a CEO's attention and marketing that gets a CEO's trust. I mean, I talk to CEOs all day long, but if I'm talking about me instead of talking about them, I'm never going to earn their trust. How do you work with CEOs to help them make that transition from being, look at me, to let me look at you, and furthermore, let me listen to you? What is your process? Because every one of us have some kind of an ego, or we have some kind of a thought, or that think we have value. What do you go through in the process of redirecting my attention as a CEO to what needs to happen so that I'm now the servant leader or the servant to, as opposed to the CEO?
Mhm. So the first thing I do, and our discussion is supposed to be about AI today, so I'm going to bring in one of the first tools. You can go in to reviews. So if you have reviews where clients have reviewed you, or others in your space have gotten reviews from clients, and you collect those reviews and you add them to an AI tool, and you ask the AI tool, what are the pain points for the CEOs that actually pull the trigger? Because if they're giving you a review, they've pulled the trigger, whether it be with you or one of your competitors. What are the pain points and how do they talk about it? And so immediately you start looking at the analytics and the data that says these are the things that keep them awake at night, and these are the things that they are dissatisfied with, and you steer into those conversations. As a CEO speaking to another CEO, you steer into difficult conversations. And the sooner you do that, the sooner you build trust.
Well, recently we met as a group. We have the CEO Alliance group here in Dallas that we met, and we had several CEOs in the room and on Zoom, and we talked about GEO.
Mhm.
What is GEO? And quite honestly, I hadn't heard the term before I heard it from you. But as soon as you explained it to me, it made every sense in the world. Talk to us about what you shared and then what we did that was a benefit to us.
Okay. So the easiest way to explain GEO, because nobody remembers what the GEO stands for versus the CEO or the AEO. When it comes down to is, think about, everybody knows what SEO is. It's how you get listing in Google and how people find your website. GEO is, think of all of the AI tools, because people are no longer just going to Google and searching for you in a regular Google search. If they go to Google, they usually check out Gemini, or they go to their Chat GPT or their Copilot or whatever tool they use. And they typically don't look for a company. They ask to solve a problem, or who can help me. And what you do is you want to rank yourself so that when someone is asking for a solution, you have positioned yourself in the AI tools so that it references you as the expert. And I recently had it done with a client in particular, and I'll go through how we did that. But a particular client I had spoken to, I put a bunch of his information into some of the different chats because I wanted to garner insights on how people are looking for his services. And this was before he ever actually signed the contract to work with me. I got an email from him saying, I just got a client off of ChatGPT. They called me. They gave them 10 names, and the first three were false, and the fourth one was me. And like, I haven't put myself into these chats. So one, I know it was you. And two, oh my gosh, I got a client. And the fun of that, because what we do is we have to tell the chats, we have to educate them. Chats are always, whichever ones you're using, they are always learning. and they need to know where to get information from. So what we do is what we call indexing, and we did it a round robin style, where we brought in a handful of CEOs who all want their business to be found better. And we created, and my team created scripts for everyone. And for those who weren't part of my inner circle, we showed them how to create their own scripts. And we took those scripts and put them in the third person. So everybody did it themselves in first person, but basically explains who you are, what you do, very important, where you're located and where you serve, because this is really important to GEO, because the AI tools usually look for the geographic boundaries of where you serve and where people are when they're asking for help. And then you need to tell them what you solve for. And that's why I suggested you go out and you look at reviews and you ask chat tools how people are looking for you, how people are asking for services that relate to you in terms that they are interested in, not how we sell ourselves. So it may not be the words that we use on our services page. So instead, we use those terms and we build out all of those things. And then we pick up your LinkedIn profile. We pick up your company LinkedIn profile. We pick up your website URL. We pick up the directories where you are talked about and where your services are announced. And you put them in there. And then you take a couple of links to some of the best and most informative blogs that you have, and you drop them in. And that all becomes part of the script. And you drop it in, and before you hit return, you ask it a question about, how do I help Paul get better reach with his clients? How do I help clients or potential clients find Paul as a solution? Who can he serve? Any of those types of questions. Make the chat think about those things. And when it does that, it gives us so much information, which is the byproduct of it. And we take that byproduct and we use it separately. But what you've done is you've indexed yourself. And if you have 10 other business owners, the chats realize when you are teaching it who you are versus when somebody else is saying, I worked with Paul and Paul does solve these problems. And so it helps the AI tools find you more easily and above your customers. And now realize some of the big agencies will tell me, oh, that doesn't really work. Well, I will tell you it does. And the reason the big agencies don't want you to know is because this is the place where we can compete with them, because we can't compete with them on SEO. They can buy the clicks and they can pay so much more than we can. And with the GEO and AEO, it's fair game.
It is out there. And one of the first conversations that you and I had about GEO, and he said, this really works. I did this for our company. And in the first week, I landed a 6-figure client.
Yes.
From
Yes.
the information that you put out in AI on a chat.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now, 2 years ago, every CEO was panicking about whether AI is anything, pretending it didn't exist, didn't know what they did, and just out of fear of the unknown. What did Mogex do to land on that spectrum, and where are you now with it?
We lean into it. Now, please also understand that AI, GEO, AEO, it isn't end all be all. You have to understand that if you are going to use AI tools for marketing, it can't be in a vacuum. It doesn't replace strategy. It doesn't replace decision making and judgment. And we have to teach it. So my first thought of it is I looked at AEO as my very smartest intern. It is an intern that I don't have to pay and doesn't take coffee breaks and works 24/7. And I can have as many of them as I want. So what you do is, in a good intern, to make them better, you have to teach them. You have to spend time with them. And that's exactly what we did. We spent time with our tools and we taught them what we wanted them to know. We taught them how to work together, who we are, what we do, what we solve for, who our clients are, what our voice is. And then I gave them 300 blogs that I had written in the past. This is my voice, this is my point of view, and this is who I am. Now, not everyone has 300 blogs, but
Right.
you can do it with 2 or 3 or an article or 2. But it's important to give it a frame of reference to have a point of view, because otherwise you're what everybody else is.
Well, I understand. And obviously, AI is generally better at your own team if you know how to use it. But
Mhm.
what do you do to make sure that all the AI marketing doesn't sound like everybody else's AI marketing? If they're going out and grabbing a piece here and grabbing a piece there and then thinking they've created something, which I like probably every CEO that looks at this kind of thing does. Oh, that looks good. I'm going to grab it. Well, somebody asks the same question out there is going to get the same answer. What do you
Yeah.
do to make sure that we are original, we are personable? And
Mhm.
that's the thing I'd like to wrap in. How do you make
Okay.
our responses as a CEO be personable when it's going out to a CEO that either never has heard of us or just gets introduced to us?
Okay. So I would step back a little bit. And first of all, for all the CEOs who are considering using SEO, GEO, AEO, and using the AI tools, first of all, you have a better opportunity to make it work better for you than your younger team members. Reason being is, and this is what we lean into, is we already have insights, we already have knowledge, we already have a point of view. When you are having a junior member of your team versus yourself both prompting and teaching the AI tools, because you have experience, you will have better insights. You will ask better questions. You will also look at what it gives you and say, that's not right. There are things that are missing. And that's why I say you can't replace all of your marketing with AI, because we are experts, we have insights, and we know our brand differently than a tool would. So, one, you go out and look and say, so I've used this before and it doesn't work right. And I don't want to do what everybody else is doing. Two, I know my brand better and I know how we solve differently. Plus, I have a voice. I speak differently and I have a different point of view. And you teach the tools those things. And then you look at it and say, there are things missing that we want to do in our strategy that is not included in this. And then you build a plan and understand that if you get the strategy wrong, you just fail faster because you're amplifying it. So if you want to lose a lot of money, take a really bad strategy and implement it, because you're amplifying bad strategy. Instead, you create a good strategy, you test it, you make sure it's working, and then you amplify it.
All right. Now, along with that, and now that I have a product, I have a voice, I have understanding of what my customers are looking for. How do I get through all of the AI generated pitches and emails and whatever to make a breakthrough to who I want to make it to in today's clutter and noise out there?
So I would look for other business owners who are using it, or trusted partners, to say, which ones have you vetted? Because it takes a lot of time to vet them all. I will tell you, as an agency owner, my team vets different AI tools daily. And I am not exaggerating when I say daily. And we come to a meeting once a week where we talk about the different tools that we have looked at and which ones make sense. And 95% of them we throw to the wayside. And we do not give up the tools we like and we've had success with without fully vetting and onboarding the new tools and having success with it before we switch over. You implement them and augment them before you change over to them. So I find a handful of them and we keep them. And when people are first joining and really getting into AI, you have to look at which ones solve for the problems you're looking for. And so for me, I suggest you get one or two tools and you learn how to use them and get mastery level before you move on. Or you go to a partner and ask them to help implement it for you. But my big concern is everything. CEOs are visionaries. They see flashy, they see the new sparkly object, and we are all guilty of it. It's really easy to move from one to the next to the next. You have to find something that is vetted and is going to be around a while. The last thing you want to do is invest in a tool that is going to be gone in 6 months because it doesn't get enough market share. Go with something that is tried and true. You go with things that have had history and people are using and are building out, because if they're building it out, they're going to continue investing in it, which means it will be around for a period of time. I hope that answered your question.
It does. And, some of the thoughts that I'm having right now is, as you know, we all sat together and several different CEOs sat in the room and we promoted each other in GEO through our different chats that at your direction. You gave us the questions, we answered the questions, took us a little while, we put it together. And we've done that. And as you know, from your suggestion, we've done that with our company. But I understand that you've worked with several companies, been on platforms, and have a workshop that you're putting together and probably will repeat on a periodic time. Tell me about the workshop and what you think the people are looking for and what answers that you're going to be able to give them in that workshop.
So I'm doing a workshop on how to use AI as a multiplier. So finding out, and I'm going to share my favorite tools and how we use them for different things, because not every AI is good at everything. So which ones work best? And then I'm showing them how we are using some of them to automate other systems and processes in order to connect them to get more out of them. But then also how to train them, and then some of the prompts that we can use across different AIs. And for me, it doesn't matter if it is, say, ChatGPT, Copilot, or Claude. I have my favorites, but other people have restrictions. People in the financial services very often, or in the corporate arenas, have to use something like Copilot because it has the lockdown that it has and the security features that work with Microsoft. I find I really like Claude. There are certain things that ChatGPT works really well on, and I got to tell you, my favorite is Gamma. But we're going to talk through each of those in that session. But then I'm going to give you hands-on. I'm physically going to do an exercise where I'm going to take all of the reviews, both my clients and my competitor clients, and do a search of those, grab them and drop them into an AI tool to really better understand my potential customers and show you how to talk to them and what to solve for. Then we're going to look at how to create content where we can take something like a long draft of an article or a bunch of blog posts or a chat that you've done even on Teams where you've recorded it and taken the transcript and you drop it into one of the tools and create 20 different pieces of content out of it, all with your voice and your point of view. and then use a different AI to schedule it all for you.
I think that's wonderful. And do you have a date on your next meeting that's open to anyone watching this podcast
I
today?
I am. I am setting it up for May 6th and another one on May 16th. One is an evening event, a Wednesday evening, and the other is a Saturday in the morning. What I wanted to do was not take time away from people's golden hours for work and instead give them an opportunity when they can actually focus on it.
Super. And then there's also always going to be people like me that are, okay, I like my Saturdays with family and I don't want
Mhm.
evenings. So somewhere in the future, hopefully you'll have one for somebody that says it's important enough to me to spend
Yep.
some work time on it and do it. So I'm going to
Yes.
suggest a third one just for that purpose. I'll be in one of your first ones for sure. But, you know, with what you've done and how are you doing, where do you think it's going to go with all of the CEOs now that they're hearing about it? There's a
Mhm.
high percentage that are saying, what is it? A higher percentage that says, anybody know anything about it? A
Mhm.
much lower percentage is going, okay, we need to find out about this and do something. I'm amazed every day when I'm talking to somebody about what they don't know as much as, and it's just this vague thing that's out in, you know,
Mhm.
cyberspace or in whatever communication they're having. And they don't stop to see what it is. What do you suggest for the audience of how to view what's out there
Mhm.
and how to take what's out there and put it into their business in a positive way to where they don't have the negative way of, oh, this is going to take my job or this is going to change something else or we're going to, you know, I don't, you know, I know that jobs will be affected by it, but in most cases, it makes jobs better to where they can do more. Share your thoughts on that.
Okay, so there are a couple of points there to make. First of all, for CEOs who are interested in it, learn one and get comfortable with it. Do not fall under the shiny obstacles or shiny objects where you start chasing different things. One or two do really well. Go to a trusted source and ask opinions so that you're not starting from square one and get a little bit of help. Look at your agencies, your partners, whether it be IT services, whether it is marketing, whatever those areas are, and ask experts who can help you navigate it. And then I want you to think about when you talk about it upsetting jobs and how it will impact them. If we take all of the entry level positions and create AI, and we set them all up and those jobs go away. And then we look at it for those medium level jobs. How will we get the expertise to give us those high positions? So while you are training tools to make people more efficient, it shouldn't eliminate the need for people. It should give them the tool to make them better at it and make them faster. So you may need less people, but don't eliminate them completely. Because at a certain point, we still need to give people education and insights, or when you get to that strategy level, there will be no one at that senior level who can make the judgment calls and make the decisions.
Okay. Right now, when you run into a CEO that's intimidated by AI,
Mhm.
what's the conversation you share to get them unstuck? At this point, they may come to the meeting or listen to the meeting, but how do you get them out of the thing of, I don't know what this is and I don't think I can ever do it?
I put them fingers on keyboards and I give them a prompt that I put in the chat. They copy it, they paste it into the chat, and all of a sudden they see something they didn't see before.
You know, what's some marketing skills that was valuable 5 years ago that AI has made nearly worthless today? What's a skill that's suddenly worth 10 times what it used to be?
So first of all, a lot of the scheduling, a lot of the content, like we still need good copywriters to discover voice to build out initial pieces. But once we have those initial pieces, we can create so much content based on those initial pieces. When you are looking at programming and automation, there are so many coding groups. You don't have to have any experience to use preset coding to be able to automate some of these functions. One of the other things I'm really seeing a lot of success on is evaluating things like websites, SEO, and even evaluating where you are landing on GEO and AEO. There are dashboards you can put your website and your social media into that will grade you and suggest changes to improve your SEO, your GEO, and AEO.
And some of this I know you're going to introduce the idea of in your work sessions. But if someone really wants to develop out a marketing strategy for their team, I know you have this little company that is a marketing company. Not so little, but how do you engage with your clients to do marketing on, well, I want to know about it, or I want to know about it and I want you to help me with it, or can you do this for me? It's
Right.
done for you. You know, here it
Yeah.
is. How it's set it up or done for you. Talk about that with AI.
We have a model where we look at how do we teach and train. So as a fractional CMO, I often go into companies and I evaluate what they're doing, how they're doing it, and I evaluate their team and say, okay, you have the wrong people, or you have people in the wrong seats, or you need somebody at a different level, or there's a skill set missing. Also, these are some tools that would be beneficial for you. And then that's the initial onboarding or a consulting type scenario. Then we have a do it with you where we can build out some of it for you and build the strategy, do regular check-ins with you, and you actually drive the train. You physically have your team put the pieces into place and schedule things out and might replicate some of the things that we've built for you using the templates we provide. And then we have a do it for you model where we have regular strategy sessions. We talk about it. We do regular check-in meetings, but my team is responsible for building out all of the assets, scheduling the assets, and building out the funnels, and then having those funnels input into your CRM to continue follow-up, to continue those relationships so that it is ready for a salesperson to take and make that warm connection.
Okay. Well, Rebecca, I can't see that Tricia has ever been able to get back in from the airport, which is unfortunate. But I was going to ask you if there's any questions that you think Tricia would like to share with us or anything on there. So Rebecca, if you're there, I can see you, but I can't hear you. And
hi guys. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. What thoughts do you have that you think Tricia would want us to share with the audience here?
Oh, I'm just curious myself what Sheila's anticipating for AI and marketing in the next 6 to 12 months.
So we are looking at a lot of the different functions to take automation, working with the AI tools to make things easier to use, and then also to create better experiences. So we're also looking at things as simple as bots and how we use them, how we use different APIs to scrape data from other locations and add it to our CRM, not to spam people, but to create actual experiences for them and create dialogue, solve problems for them, and give them, whether it be checklists or add lead magnets, which will add value to them, but also give us the insights to better serve them. So all of those things are growing by leaps and bounds right now. We're looking at the right tools to use for our clients, but we aren't just arbitrarily reaching out to it. And I think you're going to see a lot of people who are going to jump on bandwagons and then they're going to step back because they're going to realize one of the points that I made earlier, that a bad strategy just helps you lose more money faster versus a good strategy will be amplified. I hope that answers your question.
Oh, it does. And I'm also curious, we talked about like CEOs and getting them on board with an AI strategy. With some of what I've heard from my perspective too was, AI is going to take my job. I'm going to be replaced by AI. So I know that's not true for myself. Just that the people that learn how to use AI are the ones that are going to be the ones in demand. How would you suggest, a CEO would talk to their team about AI adoption if they're coming in and saying, oh, we're going to, use some agents, or we'll do all of these things here for those team members that might be feeling a little sheepish about, oh, here comes AI and I'm going to slowly get replaced now?
So I think the important thing is to talk to your team about how AI makes you more efficient, not replaces you. Because again, as much as we want to automate things, we also need judgment and we need people to oversee it because it can go awry. And my team, if anyone has seen bad messaging or things that haven't worked, my team always uses my account before we use client accounts. So it does occasionally go awry. And it is about understanding the tools, knowing how to use them, but also understanding that you shouldn't rely on it 100% because there still needs to be a human making judgment calls and giving it the voice and realigning it to the core values of the company, the voice of the company. And companies don't stay the same. They need to make changes and people help them make changes.
Keeping the human touch. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
Well, one of the things, and I share this as a closing thought here as we're going here, because of some of the interaction that you've done, shown us, etc., we decided that in our company, we would do a show and tell. We asked people to create things, identify things, and then we were all on Zooms and everyone had a chance to go to the screen. And, being in the finance world, I do a lot of deep dives. Well, I'm able now to create some worksheets and things that I need to do that used to take me 10 hours or 2 days, and I can do them in an hour or 4 hours. The biggest problem is looking at what you have, seeing what's not there, and asking to see if it can fix it or resolve it or give you the answer that you need ultimately. So I would say one of my recommendations is get your team that may be concerned about their job or may be concerned about anything negative from the AI standpoint, get in a room with them and have all of them start creating something to share with others in a positive way. Let's put it that way. But have them share with others some, just from a simple one-line prompt to building out multi-question prompts to full-page prompts. They work. What are your thoughts on that, Sheila? And let's wrap this up on how they get with you on the workshops you're doing, and where we will have them in all of the messagings that we're going to go out, but you might put that out there.
So I agree with you, Paul, that the sooner you get fingers on keyboards of your team so they're not intimidated by it and don't feel like their jobs are going away, but instead they have a new tool that will make them so much more efficient to do more and to bring more to the table. Absolutely agree with it. As far as the seminars that I'm holding, I'm doing workshops. Right now I have 2 scheduled. The best way to reach out to me is to email me at Sheila, SHEILA, at MogXP, and tell me you're interested. We will put you into the list so that when we have an invite, you will get a notification and asked if you want to join.
Perfect. Well, Sheila, any last questions you have of me? I've been putting you on the spot all day. Is there anything that you want to ask of me? And we'll close with that.
So for me, Paul, do you find that you are more efficient with AI, or are you finding that it is distracting and taking time away? And I ask that because that's a question I am asking CEOs when I meet with them and start talking about it.
Well, in terms of getting my work done, it is something that I will now, in foreseeable future, adopt. It saves me a tremendous amount of time. It also makes me think about things I may not have thought about. That's probably, it's what do I have is important, but what do I not have are the things that I may not see. But it still takes the human touch to step in and look at it, look at the results and go. Now, it is the shiny object. I will find myself, okay, well, I want to make that image better in this presentation, or I want to do something better. And I'll spend time doing that, that I'm getting much better control of now that I'm seeing end results instead of trying to be experimental, shall we say. And that's why I think, CEOs that can come to your workshops, learn what works, where they're not spending so much time out there trying to find out what does work. And then second, how do you use that tool to get an answer or response that will help them, as opposed to just give them more questions to answer? So yes, I know it's a two-edged sword, just like anything in life. In this particular thing, it's a very fast, all-encompassing two-edged sword if you're not careful.
Yeah. If I may, I'm also going to throw out a teaser that they need to keep an eye on our social media and C-suites, because we're going to have some great announcements coming up, how we can do marketing better and how we can use systems, AIs, and some great tools that already exist in the C-suite platform to do better things. So more to come.
More to come, and we're talking about Trish Ben, C-Suite Network, Jeffrey Hazlitt. These are tools that everything we've talked about today is being developed into better things for the whole group. So pay attention to AI and what's coming through C-Suite Network, MOGEX, and AI. So with that, we thank you guys for joining us today. Y'all have a great day.